But welcome, everyone, to the Battleford's Trade and Education Centre here in North Battleford, offering services to this community and its surrounding area for 58 years now. Mona, where's Mona? Yes, yeah, 58 years. Now I had the opportunity to visit 4 years ago to do a tour of a new building which was constructed and moved into 8 years ago, and a great building. Most certainly for the services that are being offered. Much of the campaign thus far has been about making life more affordable for Saskatchewan people and Saskatchewan families. More affordable for seniors, more affordable for students, more affordable for families and for homeowners, but I think most certainly and most importantly, much of the announcements that we've seen in the past week have been about making life more affordable for everyone in Saskatchewan. And our goal is to make Saskatchewan the very best place to live for people that are living with a disability. It was our Saskatchewan Party government who created the SAID program, or the Saskatchewan Assured Income for Disabilities program, a number of years ago, a program that aims to give income dignity to those in Saskatchewan who may be living with a disability. That program has evolved over the years to allow people receiving SAID the opportunity to work and earn some income without being penalized or without having that income clawed back or their SAID support clawed back. And a re-elected Saskatchewan Party government will increase that employment income exemption by $1,000. This will allow an individual that is receiving SAID to earn $7,500 annually without reducing those SAID benefits, and a family to earn $9,500 annually. A re-elected Saskatchewan Party government will also make life more affordable for those people that are living with a disability and their caregivers. We're going to increase the disability tax credit. The disability tax credit is a supplement for people under the age of 18, and we're going to increase that by 25%. We'll also increase the caregiver tax credit by 25% as well. With these increases, Saskatchewan will have the highest caregiver tax credit in the nation of Canada. And this will go a long ways for this government and this province to be the very best place in Canada for people living with a disability and for their families. And we will be the second highest provincial disability tax credit in the nation as well. And this is going to increase those benefits from each of these tax credits by about $286 prior to inflation. As you know, all of our tax credits are then indexed to inflation to protect against that very inflationary challenge that we have been facing the last number of years. And these increased tax credits are in addition to the previously announced income tax reduction that was announced this past week that will again impact everyone. Increases to other benefits as an individual may qualify if they own their home, which again were announced last week, will also be eligible. If they stay in Saskatchewan after graduation, you're also eligible for the graduate retention program and the increases announced this past week. Or if they have kids in sports or arts activities, those also will apply. These measurements will make life more affordable in our province for people that are living with disabilities, as well as their caregivers and ultimately their families. We were able to make these investments because of our strong and growing and vibrant economy that we have in the province of Saskatchewan, and this is all part of the plan that we have for a strong economy and a brighter future for you here in the Battlefords, in this surrounding area, a strong economy and a brighter future for all of those that live in a community across Saskatchewan. So in closing, I want to just make note of Jeremy Cockrell, who is our candidate in the Battlefords. Is here with us today and hosting us. We have James Thorstenson, who is our Cut Knife Turtleford candidate, who is at the back. We also have Kim Gardner, who's running in the Kindersley, a bigger constituency as well. And two final notes, but one is Herb Cox, who I had the opportunity to tour this facility with a number of years ago, and who was a very strong advocate and a voice and a representative on behalf of the people that lived in the Battlefords, and was elected with myself in 2011 as well. And I see him here today, and I want to say a very special hello to Herb and a thank you for the work that he did, not only on this file and not only on behalf of being a voice for the Battlefords Trade and Education Centre, but more broadly for the people across the Battleford's communities and people across Saskatchewan. And last, but certainly not least, I would say most, I want to just call to the podium for a couple of comments on the good work, the great work that is happening right here in this facility with Mona Lise, who is the Executive Director of the Battleford's Trade and Education Centre, a facility and a service that has been here for over half a century, helping families, supporting families. So Mona, if you have a few moments.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for everyone for being here today. It means a lot to us to be in our facility that is new to us, even though it's 8 years old. I think the announcement today you made is going to make a great impact on our participants, their families, and caregivers. I just wanted to talk a little bit about BTEC. Like Scott said, we've been in the Battlefords for celebrating 58 years this year. It's a big milestone for us. And right now we have 68 participants that attend our program. So if you would ever like to come for a tour or just come by our bookstore, we have a new to you bookstore. Yeah, yeah. I invite you guys to come for a tour and find out what BTEC is about. It means a lot to all of us. And I'd like to thank our amazing staff. I have so many amazing staff that have been with the organization for 25, 20, 15, 10 years, down to 6 months. And I'd really like to give them a round of applause. So. And of course, I can't forget our participants. They are our main reason we're here. They are the ones that we work for. So I just like, if you are a participant of BTEC, please stand up or give us a wave so we can give you guys a round of applause. Stand up. Again, thank you to Scott Moe and the Sask Party. Thank you, Jeremy. And I'd like to thank Herb, who has been, like Scott said, a strong supporter of BTEC. Whenever we needed anything, he was there for us, and same as Jeremy. So thank you, and thanks for coming.
I would echo all of that appreciation, and in particular, as the participants in the day program here at BTEC. This is about you, and this announcement and the support that we talk about here today. This is about you and your family, and truly in an effort to ensure and take steps towards the province of Saskatchewan being the very best place in Canada and around the world for those that may be living with a disability. Want to live right here. This is about you. Is there any questions? Seeing none again today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Please say
thank you. Don't thank me. Thank you.
Yeah, I have questions, but actually it's not like about these investments.
Yeah.
But this is for French CBC, so
sure.
For myself. The first question is about so according to experts and the opposition, the provincial...
Experts in the opposition? I've never heard of such a thing. you have bad information already.
So the provincial government's decision to count ballots by hand instead of using electronic vote counting machines was a partisan move. So what is your assessment
on vote counting machines?
Yeah.
Yeah, very simply this, is a vote that's cast by hand should be counted by hand. Simply that.
Okay, so this is not a partisan reason why you did that?
If people are going to take the time to cast a vote by hand, I think it deserves the respect to be counted by hand.
Okay.
Simple as that.
And I'd like to have your assessment about the Lake Diefenbaker irrigation project. You know, like the recent report was commented a lot, and a lot of people, experts, saying that the report is vague and based on shaky assumptions. So what is your assessment about
I disagree. I disagree. Listen, the whole premise around the Diefenbaker Lake expansion is really building off the very original intent of why that reservoir was built back in its day. And that was, it was an initiative that was put forward not only by the provincial government, but by Ralph Goodale and the federal government as well. And it's an initiative that is focused on a number of different priorities. I believe the report will focus on one. One is expanding the value of the crops that we grow through agricultural irrigation. Yes, that's true. To increase the value of the crops that we grow and increase the food security that we provide, and already provide, I think, to a great number of countries, over 160 countries around the world. But to increase the value per acre of the crops we're growing, that's one. Two is to increase the opportunities for water security into our municipal communities, in particular our larger municipal communities, for literally decades, if not centuries into the future. Saskatoon, Regina, all growing communities. And when you look at the various phases that were put forward by the original report that was done through, I believe, Western Economic Diversification with Ralph Goodale involved, the federal government and the provincial government, water security for those large growing communities in our province is paramount. And third, I would say that there's also an added water security piece that we need for the industries that are employing people in Saskatchewan. The potash mining industry, the value-added agriculture industry, which is adding value today through protein fractionation, through canola crush plants that we're seeing built. They need water security as well in order to make the investment. And many times they're international companies. Many times they're investments that are being derived right from people that are living in Saskatchewan. But they need water security in order to make those investments, in order to increase the value add that we're bringing to the ag community, so that we're exporting ingredients as opposed to just raw agricultural products, and most importantly to create the jobs in the communities. And we were in Ruralurban where they're doing protein fractionation, an investment there creating jobs. We see the investment that AGT has made in the Davidson area in protein fractionation. I was in Humboldt at a similar plant the other day, and we're all aware of the doubling and new investments into the canola crush space. And so it is about water security, not only for irrigation and advancing and increasing the value of the crops that we are producing, getting to to vegetable crops and things as opposed to wheat and canola. But it's also about municipal water security for growing vibrant cities and communities. And it's also about water security for the industries that are creating jobs for the people that are living in those urban centers as well. So I don't know if the so-called experts, I think one was from, I don't know if any were from the province or not, and certainly none were from the opposition, I can assure you of this. But I don't know if they took into account the fulsome opportunities that that project can bring for the province of Saskatchewan. We've seen those opportunities realized throughout the southern Alberta belt, where they're growing those higher value crops today and receiving the economic benefits, not only to the province of Alberta, but to the communities where that water security is also already being provided. And so this is step one, what we have been discussing, and there's work that's happening now in the way of Indigenous consultation and other steps as we find our way through to that investment. But I think, and I haven't read the report, but I would suspect that some of the assumptions are, maybe premature, vague, or maybe even ill-informed to some degree, not understanding, what the vision of our province is moving forward. It isn't the vision that the opposition would have of stagnant population, really, declining investment in our communities. It's a vision of growth. In particular, we see that growth in Saskatoon and Regina, but we see it here in the Battlefords as well, with a facility like this that was invested in just under a decade ago and is offering such a valuable service to people that are living with a disability in this community and their families. And so that's what a strong, growing, vibrant economy can do, and that is the vision that this party has. And that's the vision we're asking people to support on October the 28th. Short answer to your very lengthy question.
Mr. Moe, the Occupational Health and Safety has issued a notice of contravention regarding the crowding at Royal University Hospital.
Sure.
Some say that this represents a failure of the healthcare system. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say it and again, I'm sure that management within the Saskatchewan Health Authority that are operating in that space will have answers to the specific concerns of that were raised in that space. And I would speak more broadly to the commitment that this party has had, and this party, the Saskatchewan Party, will bring to healthcare now and into the future. And I would point to the Canadian challenge that we have, one, in recruiting health human resource folks into not only our emergency rooms, but the health authority more broadly. And two, what we are doing in the shorter term to alleviate and address some of the pressures that we are seeing across Canada, but also seeing in Saskatchewan in our emergency rooms. And that's the introduction of the Urgent Care Centre in Regina, which is seeing a number of patients each and every day that is rivaling the Pasco and the Regina General Hospital. We're expanding on that model in Saskatoon with a unique partnership with Takakuk Cree Nation to have an urgent care centre up and running there as well to alleviate the pressures that we're seeing in Saskatoon at the hospitals there. I would say I don't know that one of those facilities in each of those communities is going to be sufficient. We likely will have to look beyond that. They are technically, I suppose, a pilot, but I would say thus far looking like quite a successful pilot with the operations in the Regina facility. So we might have to look at increasing the number of facilities in those two large centres, but also starting to look out to maybe a Prince Alberta, a Moose Jaw, or a North Battleford as the challenge on the number of people in our emergency rooms is a Canadian challenge. It's one that is going to require additional healthcare workers, but it's also one that's going to require looking at how we're delivering healthcare in new and innovative ways, and that's precisely what an urgent care centre does. In the meantime, what we have seen is the Saskatchewan Health Authority has been reallocating resources, both people and finances, to the emergency rooms, particularly in Saskatoon. As the urgent care centre is helping not eliminating, but helping alleviate some of those parallel concerns that we had in months gone by in Regina. And so this is a party and has been a government that has been committed to recruiting and retaining and hiring those healthcare professionals into our Saskatchewan Health Authority through the most ambitious health human resource plan in the nation. It's also a government that is committed to looking at new and innovative ways to address some of the pressures that we have within the healthcare system, and working with our collective organizations and others with the introduction and the agreement of the nurse task force, bringing all nurses of all designation into that conversation. This is a party and a government that has been committed to that and will continue to be committed to that and funding those initiatives moving forward.
Sure. And another question, you've spent some time in North Battleford, Prince Albert, and Moose Jaw. How important are those sizes of communities in the outcome of this election?
Yeah, we've been to all the major centres and to a number of the rural centres in and around our major centres, as well as we make our travels across the province. And I would say all 61 constituencies are of vital importance to this party and the 61 candidates that we have running. We have James and Kim here today from Kinnersley and from Cut Knife Turtle for the surrounding area. And I think it really speaks to the success that we have in Saskatchewan. And I'll just speak briefly to what some will consider a rural-urban divide in our nation and in this province, and I'll have none of that. What we have in Saskatchewan is really a rural-urban synergy, where we see how we create wealth in our province is through providing, fuels, energy and food security to over 160 countries around the world. And those resources that we are looking to provide and export, and the exports are the very source of our community wealth and our personal wealth, they're located many times in the rural areas of the province. The people that are bringing and adding value to those resources, the people that often work in a potash mine or living in a neighboring urban community, the people that are working in the protein fractionation plants and the canola crush plants that I mentioned earlier, are living and often living in a nearby town, village, or city. So the natural resources, whether it be the oil and gas, whether it be the helium, whether it be the uranium, whether it be the potash, whether it be our agricultural land and all of the value-added opportunities that come with that, are often in the rural areas of our province, but the people often that are bringing value to those products are living in urban centers. And so the way that we create wealth and the way that we'll create more wealth for our communities so that we can make investments like the Battleford's Trade and Education Center here in North Battleford to provide that so very important day program to the residents that are attending here is by that rural and urban synergy that we have and capitalizing on creating more value into the future. That's how we'll grow our population. That's how we'll provide our children the opportunity to stay in Saskatchewan. And I would say that that's a very different vision than we see coming from the opposition, a vision of a history and a record of decline, loss, and closure. And when you put forward an over $3 billion uncosted, irresponsible, reckless spending plan, it won't be very long and you'll be back to that very decline, loss, and closure in this province again.
Is a rally happening in Saskatoon today advocating for more housing for homeless people? What is the Sask Party's most immediate and new plans to address growing homelessness struggles?
Well, we've seen significant investments, whether it be in homelessness or addressing some of the root causes behind what might be causing homelessness. And this will, I'll be a little bit encompassing in this answer because I think it's an important one, not just to the community of Saskatoon, but I think it's an important one to communities across the province and families. As we see the root causes of what is behind, whether it be homelessness or some of the challenges that we have in our communities, is all too often some of the mental health challenges that we're seeing in society today, not just in Saskatchewan, but across Canada and around the world. And all too often we're seeing those mental health challenges lead to addictions issues as well. And so you've seen the ROSC plan that this government has put forward, the recovery-oriented system of care. That's an important investment, not only in the capacity and the beds that are being offered, but in the access points, which are also through those urgent care centers. You've seen there's a complex needs shelter that has been placed in Saskatoon and Regina, and those are to support people ultimately in their transition to attain and to aspire to what they can be, and they may have slipped into unfortunately a life with addictions or what that might be. And so this is all about steps in transitioning people into a home of their own and into a better life. And you've seen just recently the government partnered with a community-based organization in Regina where we took some of our Sask housing stock and are putting that into a rent-to-own program that they will operate and run. And a way for us to use the Sask housing stock that we have in Saskatchewan, of which we didn't sell years ago like a province like Manitoba did, but to use that as transitional housing for people that are aspiring to own their own home in this case, as it will be a rent-to-own program. And so there's a number of initiatives specific to homelessness, a number of initiatives specific as well to supporting the recovery of some of the root causes of homelessness, mental health, and all too often addictions. And I would say that also in this space, there is a conversation around community safety, and we've seen some various announcements around community safety in the last few days in this campaign, and I think you might see some in the next day or two as well. And this is a government that is committed to safer communities and neighborhoods. You've seen that as a government in the lead up to the election, and you'll see it very shortly as a party in this running for the support of Saskatchewan people, not only in the Battlefords but across the province. And where the Saskatchewan Party sits today, going into the election, is a commitment to 180 additional RCMP officers across the province. That has been signed off by the Finance Minister to fund, and we're waiting for an answer from the federal government. Over 100 municipal officers added into those 7 communities that use municipal police forces, 14 safer community and neighborhood officers, SCAN officers, to help and support the work, and mostly in urban centers, but not exclusively to urban centers, when it comes to battling addictions and drugs and the people that are providing drugs in those communities. And last but not least is the steps forward in the provincial policing area with the introduction of the Saskatchewan Marshals Program. We've seen the opposition say that they'll actually cut those police officers and replace them with doorbell cameras. I don't think Saskatchewan families or communities are looking for a doorbell camera to keep them safe. They want somebody, an officer, to arrive at their place when they are finding a time of need. And so all of this relates, whether it's homelessness, the causes of homelessness, the safety in our communities is connected. And we're approaching that with a very significant investment in the recovery-oriented system of care, providing people more opportunities for recovery, but also bringing in enforcement and removing the drugs from the hands of the drug dealers and removing the drug dealers from our communities. This is contrary this is contrary to the NDP, that are going to diminish the opportunities that we have for recovery and actually make drugs more available through safe consumption sites and other initiatives.
So on that note, Saskatoon's Prairie Harm Reduction says a staff member arrived to work last week and found someone who appeared to overdose on the doorstep, and staff believe that overdose could have been prevented if doors had been open longer. Can I just get your thoughts on this and Sask Party's plan to do it?
Yeah, and this is a significant difference where you will see the NDP move into the space of funding not only injection sites and others, but they will make drugs easier for people to access. We are going to make drugs harder for people to access. We're going to make a recovery bed easier for people to access, whereas the NDP are actually going to make a recovery bed more difficult to access. And so that is a significant difference, and I think a choice that Saskatchewan people will have this election. We are entirely focused on providing recovery opportunities for what is all too often today our friends and family members in our communities. But we're also going to bring in the enforcement to ensure that we are removing the drugs from the hands of the drug dealers and removing the drug dealers from our communities. That's why we've committed to over 350 police officers, an additional 190 that we have provided since 2011. But over 350 police officers today that will be coming to Saskatchewan communities under a Saskatchewan Party government, versus an NDP who is going to cut police officers and going to attempt to pay for your doorbell camera, which is going to keep no one safe. So the NDP are focused on making drugs more available and making recovery beds harder to access. What we are focused on is increasing the number of recovery beds that we have in the province, making them easier to access and making drugs harder to access. This is a significant difference between the two parties that can form government in this province. Thank you, everybody.